welcome back to VCV Rack Instruments and Effects. I'm your host, Dr. Lawrence W. Moore of the Wayfarer project. In this episode, we're going to look at how to make patterns that you can play for like bass lines. I got an email from Luis, one of my viewers, who is interested in seeing if we could make something that models the Rebirth RB-338. I kind of remember that from the Reason days. I no longer have Reason because I'm running Linux Mint and can't get it to work through Mint. So, through Wine on Mint. And so, in any case, that's a tall order because developers spend a lot of time as a team to put something like that together. But, you know, I've been listening to some clips of it and everything, and maybe this will help Luis out a little bit with just showing some ways to make a pattern of a bass. He also included some AI Bing readout of how to do it. And I was reading through that, and it was naming inlets and outlets wrong and stuff, and I kind of got the gist of it though, and I came up with my own ideas. So let's see how at least make some bass patterns and stuff like that that are rhythmic. So we'll be doing that with a sample and hold plus the VCV sequencer, and then I made another patch where we use an arpeggiator, which just might be a little bit more efficient. So in any case, let's get to it. Okay, so the way I wanted to start off was having the modules uncabled so that we could patch them together, you know, on the video rather than having it all pre-done. So I could just explain a few concepts and stuff too. The first thing I'm going to do is something that was a tip on the weekly tips from VCV Rack that I get on social media. And it's pretty cool. So we're going to start off with that, focusing on the sample and hold here. What a sample and hold does basically is stores voltage values. And then if you look at the lines here, they basically can be pushed down to the next one. And then if you loop them right, basically they can be a repeating, 8-step, kind of like arpeggiator or step sequencer. Using the sequencer here is also possible, but these dials range from -5 up to 5 volts, and it's hard to get in between values and to get actual pitches. Well, you could probably do that using the quantization module right here from VCV, but it's just easier this way. But first, let's look at the random thing that I saw on the tip. All you do is you turn on random here. You go down here, right-click on the module, and go down to ranges. This works best when you do it in a narrow range. Like, let's see here. 0 volts to 1 volt. So that'll be within an octave. It's 1 volt per octave, basically. And what you do after you do those settings, since random is on, it'll just put in random voltages in for you. And you hit the push button 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now random voltages have been loaded up and stored in here. Then what you do, I'm going to use a yellow cable because I use that for CV. You hook up the bottom outlet to the top inlet. So basically as things cycle down, it feeds the last one back in. Basically, it's like reloading the same values over again. So they are randomized, but they're going to be the same 8 voltage values each time. Then we're going to take an output from the top outlet up here and go into the quantization here. This helps lock the voltages into the 12 divisions of the octave in the equal tempered system, so we don't get in between out of tune notes and stuff like that. And then you need to hook up a trigger. I'm using the trigger from the VCV sequencer here, which has its own clock, and you see it's running. And now our voltages are coming through. So we can hook them up to 1 volt per octave input here. So now our oscillator's receiving voltage information. And because I'm going to use it later, I might as well also hook it up here to the VCF. If we turn it up all the way, we won't hear any frequencies being cut in the low pass filtering. Hold on here. And then we could just put that right into here. Now, we could hook this audio out right into here and not have any ADSR, but we can see how it sounds either way. We do need a gate to trigger the ADSR. But let me see here. Turn this up gradually. So anyway, that is pretty cool. If you wanted a wider range beyond an octave, you could select from that range setting here larger ranges of voltage amounts, but then you have to go through the process again and hitting the push button to load in random voltages from that wider range, because the ones that are in here now are currently stored. Now, let's see if we can add a little enveloping to it. I'm going to try, first of all, hooking this up, the gate, the same trigger here. And it does allow me, so good. Now, once you do that, you pretty much see release being hit here. Yeah, that's the part, because it's a trigger instead of a gate, that's the part of the envelope that will actually be able to hear the pitch in. Now, it's sure enough, because it's going so fast, that the individual instances of the notes sound basically the same. Let's slow it down. Well, I guess the triggers are coming in too fast for this ever to go to 0. One thing you can also do is, instead, let me see, since it's the top cable connection, I could probably disconnect it over here. Connect it here. Now, there's not going to be any pitch information coming in, but basically now I should set a proper envelope here, give it a little more decay time, give us a sustain level. Now I'm holding down a key. Oh, you know why we didn't hear it before? I never hooked this up. Ow. We'll go back and hear both. All right, I'm seeing level there. So let's turn this up. As I press the key, it basically turns it on and off. So what I can do is make the attack time a little more gradual. Make the release time a little more gradual, because right now this envelope is not enveloping individual notes. It's basically enveloping, turning, you know, this on and off, basically. Let's make it a little bit slower so it fades in a bit. Now, if you turn the sustain level up, you won't hear that pulse at the beginning where the amplitude's a little bit more pronounced. Okay, and now that I got this hooked up to the VCA to actually control the amplitude, let's go over here. By the way, if anybody is looking for more background on VCV rack or synthesis in general, I do have a series called Learn Synthesis with VCV rack. Okay, now let's add some filtering here. I'm going to do it with the mod wheel. The cutoff frequency will be hooked up to modulation. Looks like my keyboard is set up, so okay. The reason why I'm not hearing anything is because I have the frequency turned all the way up, and the range this goes to is all the way up, so there's really no change. There's no room. So let's lower this down. I have the mod wheel down. Let's say we want that to be the bottom of the range, and as I move the mod wheel up, all right, pretty cool. So I could another thing that can be done is you can have the controllers here in the sequencer set different cutoff values for the filter. So let's do now these are a range of -5 up to +5 volts. So you want to be 0 and above. There, that's the first one. Speed that up a little bit, or maybe slow it down. And the quantize allows you to shift it down in pitch too, because we were originally talking about bass lines, right? But another thing that can be done here, I'm going to hook this up. Basically, our volts coming in from quantization that are being sent by sample and hold are going to go to the frequency modulation portion of this. And I'll use the MIDI controller to select basically the pitch that I want it to be doing that on. Oh, I must be in polyphonic mode. So let's put it in monophonic. Now I can press different keys on the keyboard. Now we're getting into a bass range. Now I'm going to add one more thing to it. This is governing the trigger that's coming through, but maybe I want to be able to press a key on my keyboard, hear the rhythm come in. Of course, right now the key is adjusting the pattern. But if we put it in another envelope, in fact, what we want to do to make this a little more efficient, take this out and put the mixer in. Going back to the early days with Frank's recommendation. And you can let me know, Luis, in the comment section if this was helpful to you at all. Bear in mind, I do have a second patch I'm going to show in a moment, as well as a few more things I'm going to do with this one. Let's get the envelope gate here. All right. Now this gate I'm going to hook up to the MIDI in. So when I hold down a key, you'll hear it, and when I release a key, you won't. I'm going to keep the sustain neutral, so it's really going to be more of an attack release. Yeah, leave the release up a little bit. We'll hear a little fade out. Can adjust it. Want to later. And now this is going to go over here to level to control everything. And this one is going to go to the first channels. Input. All right, and then we could take the main out and put that here. Now, it looks like it's triggering, but I need to open the gate here by holding down a key. And then I release the key and it goes away. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn this down just so we don't get any surprises, is say you don't want it to be random. You want to select what pitches you're going to have in this. Well, what we need to do is unhook this, and unhook the trigger. You basically don't want things going in. And you turn off the random mode. Now over here, this volts per octave, this is coming from my MIDI. So my MIDI input is now going to go here. I turned off random mode. Important to do that. Now I'm going to think of a pattern that I want. I'm going to hold a key, press push. Then the next key in this sequence, press push. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to have to start over. I mean, basically, as long as you do 8 in a row, you'll clear out anything that was there. So I just want to make sure I get this pretty much sounding decent. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I did that twice. You see it flashed twice. I have to do it again. Sorry, you can't hear anything on this, but it's not worth me hooking this up so you hear what the notes are as I put them in. You'll hear them as soon as they're done. 1. Oh, come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I hope that wasn't a double flash there at the end, but anyway, you get the idea. They're loaded in, so now I can connect this back over here. So these intervals that I entered, because that's really how it's going to be treated, because whatever pitch I play is going to be on that pitch, and then this thing will be shifting things in pitch through the FM input here according to the interval relationships between the notes that I played. So the last one goes to the first one, and the first one goes into here. Now let's take the trigger out of here. Oh, it's already hooked up. So we need to go from here to the trigger's output. Whoops. Accidentally hooked it to something. There we go. All right, continued struggles with my mouse. Okay, now we can turn this up. And now I can just press a key. I'm going to press the same key I started on, so hopefully this pattern will sound decent. Whoa, that's a little bit low. Here's a recommendation. When you do that, try to play it somewhere within the middle of the keyboard, because the octave that you're in will also affect this pitch shift right here coming into FM. So there you go. You can play around with that and see what you like about that. Actually, I think I'll take a snapshot of this, although we are going to go on here and look at another option. It's called using an arpeggiator. Hold on, that snapshot would be better like this. All right. Okay, so I saved another patch and it's already hooked up, so we can talk about some things about it. All right, so what I have here is a clock. This is from Sickozel, the brand. It's a free brand, so you could download that library from the VCV rack library page, which can be done by going up here, browse library, and so forth. It's called Sickozel, the only one that starts with Sicko. But it's a great clock, because you could type in BPM, and then hit a run button when you want it to start or stop it. And you have divisions of the beat down here that are their own outputs. Right now I don't have the clock output hooked up because it was a little slow for my tastes, but I'll show you the difference. I'll go to clock again and start there at least. All right, so the clock output is going into this Hampton Harmonics Arpeggiator that has a few different modes to it, and we'll be playing around with them. You hook up the volts per octave, or 1 volt per octave, to the input here, and your gate from your MIDI input to here. Oh, I'm sorry, the gate goes here, the clock goes here, from up here. I just realized that you may not have been seeing that because it hides my mouse cursor when I don't zoom in. When I zoom in before, it was like showing 2 cursors, which could be confusing, so I got rid of that. So let me start again here. Volts per octave, your pitch is going in here, your gate is going in here, and then the clock output here goes into here. When we want it to be faster or have different divisions, we could hook it up to these division outputs here. Okay, so what we have here is an oscillator from the Bafaco set. I went through that set in series 2 of Learn Synthesis with VCV Rack at the beginning. It's a great sounding oscillator. One thing is its octave. It just seems to put out things an octave higher than the other modules, like compared to the VCV modules. So I put this down 1 octave here, and now we're kind of like in the normal octave range. When I play a key, it'll sound the right octave. It's going through a filter here, and I have that filter's cutoff hooked up to the mod wheel, like I did in the previous patch. I set it to right about here and set the cutoff range to up there. So when I move it, might as well play it now. There we go. So you could hear the filtering going on. And this is from RPJ. I know in the previous episode I used the same module, and I said it was Sickozel. Those 2 module sets are right next to each other in the library, and I got them confused. But it is RPJ. And here we have basically our ADSR plugged into the channel strip, so the audio out from the oscillator goes into the filter, out from the filter, into the channel strip up here. And you can do mono. This handles stereo, but you can do mono. Just put it in the left inlet, and it'll sound out panned center. Of course, you do have pan control here. And then the output from the ADSR is going into the level input here. And the ADSR is receiving gate from my MIDI module over there. And you got to put it in gate mode, which is the down position. If you're using a trigger, you do the up position. Your sustain will no longer last the length of you holding down a key. It'll go through the envelope, just being triggered to go on. And you have to turn up the, attack, decay, or release times to make it last if you were using it with a trigger. Like with the sequencer that we were using before, the VCV sequencer has trigger output. Okay, and so finally, yeah, this is the channel strip, and then it goes to the out. So here's where things are happening as far as the rhythm's concerned. That's me playing 1 note, a D, and it's going up 3 octaves because the octave knob here is set that way. If I were to reduce this, hold on just a minute here, fighting me. There we go. Now it's 1 octave, it'll stay on the same note because it's 1 note. You do want to have your MIDI input in polyphonic mode because we are going to hold down multiple notes at the same time. And what happens is the arpeggiator receives those multiple notes, but plays them in a sequence according to the pattern you select here. So let's start on the first one here where it's up. I'm going to hold down a D and an A. And it alternates between them. And then there's down, where it'll go down from the upper pitch. When you hit the keys, you kind of need to make sure whichever you want to be the beginning note, you kind of hit that a little bit before the other. But since there's a clock playing and it's still going while I'm not hearing it, it can start a little funky. I'm wondering, the run is a button here. If I hook this up gate, here, hopefully when I press the key, it'll reinitialize. Let me turn it off. Let's try it. The run button still is staying on. No, I have to press it multiple times. This is not working out. So, sorry about that. It is a bit of a pain in that regard. I'm gonna, in the future, also try using the clock from the sequencer from VCV, even though it's kind of a shame to have a big old VCV sequencer taking up all that space just to use its clock. But like in the last patch, that might work out better. Because sometimes when I play patterns with this, the arpeggiator's not on the portion of the pattern I want it to be on. You hear how it was kind of like, ooh, held a little bit longer. The rhythm kind of got thrown off, but it is pretty cool. Now this gate knob controls how long the whole note that it sends out here. Like since the gate is going through here, it can control how long the notes last. Now with this clock, the fastest I can go is that. Unless I hook this up to here, divisions of the beat, where I turn the dial in the positive direction. You can also go in a negative direction, and then it could be like 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, but of the beat, in which case it's slowing it down. I wanted to speed it up, so I put it to +4, so it should be 4 times as fast. I set the polyphony to 4 so I could actually hold out, you know, a 4-note chord here. So what we made before was almost like an arpeggiator, but we programmed in what notes we wanted it to play. So you see there's different patterns here. Maybe we can slow this down a bit. It's starting to hurt my head. And if you want a little more octave spread, maybe 2 would be all right. We're still trying to be a bass here. There we go. It's like, yeah, you could right click and select. Type in a number. Let's do 2. Of course, it doesn't have to be a bass. Alrighty, now I did cover another arpeggiator in Learn Synthesis with VCV Rack. I believe it was Series 2 towards the end. We went into the shebang modules. And so I think I might just throw this one in just for the heck of it, just since we're talking about this. I know it's one of the narrow ones. Well, hey, why don't I just type in ARP? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to take you out, pop you in. Now, this one has its own clock, I believe. But I'm not gonna, yeah. So, pitch input. Gate input. And then you have your pitch output. It should go in here. Gate output, which would go into the ADSR. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. Zoom back in a little so you can see my mouse. Oh, let's turn that down a bit. Do it right here. That's multiple pitches at the same time. Yeah, it has its own clock here. Let's zoom a little bit in on it, since its print's kind of small. That's external input if you want an external clock hooked up. But since it has one built in, we don't need that in this case. That's on and off. Gate is the length of the notes. And it has different octaves that are color-coded. Stay within one octave, which is light. And then there's a polyrhythm mode. Now we're getting chords the whole time. So turn that off and it's more like a regular arpeggiator. But I'm hearing multiple pitches. Let me try turning monophonic off here. I mean polyphonic off. Because I know the shebangs are polyphonic modules. No, it doesn't happen. But I swear I'm hearing multiple pitches at the same time. And the Biffaco oscillators are monophonic. Well, first of all, we can get rid of you. But let me see here. Because here, when the sound gets here, and this is what generates the sound, that should not be giving me, unless notes are overlapping. But gate control is coming through here. No, maybe it's not multiple pitches at the same time. Let's see what other patterns it can do, though. This is its pattern dial here. Oh, come on. Here, I'll right-click on it and just type it in, if it'll let me. All right. You right-click on it, you get a menu. Up, down, doubled. See what that does. It goes up and then down, and then it just hits 2 on each. So. And that's initialized, which will go back to So let's try this out a little bit here, see what fun we can have with it. I'll try to play some chords, which it will arpeggiate, so they won't sound like chords. I am definitely, hold on. I'm hearing like an octave there. Let me just double check. There's 2 volts per octave inputs here. Oh, there is a second. Okay, hold on. I don't think it's the arpeggiator. I think it's here. You hear how that note stays the same no matter what? Something is weird. Let me see. It might be the second oscillator here, although before it wasn't causing a problem. Not that, I mean, I know this does sound kind of cool, but it's like, shouldn't be getting... It's got to be something with this arpeggiator, man. I'm serious. Yeah, it's storing more notes in it. Let's go to the polyphony mode. Maybe if we reset. Yeah, this seems to be saving pitches and adding them to it. That ain't right, man. Hold on here. Let me disconnect this. Reconnect it. I don't know. This thing, I've used this before a couple times, but this is a hold button that you can hold, click this and it'll hold what you're playing when you release the keys. It'll keep it going. Basically a latch. I swore before, this Bafako set is not capable of polyphony, except this oscillator does have the option for it, but man, when I was using the Hampton electronics, I was not getting this. Let's just see here a second. Let's bring the Hampton back, because it's bugging me. Sorry, Luis. Volts, gate, volts, gate. Oh, and then we need a clock. I almost wish, if you're going to make an arpeggiator, have a clock built in. I mean, that can receive external clock signals, but also have them built in. You don't have to. Okay, now I'm not getting sound. Well, this gate output is not hooked up. I thought I did that. Okay, that's life as normal. Now, these shebang modules can be a little weird. So, yeah. Use with caution. All right, folks. There are other arpeggiators out there in the VCV wider developmental community library. You can check those out and see which one works well for you. I think I'm still on the hunt. I mean, I like the Hampton, but I'd like every time I hit the key for it to sound the same. But sometimes it's like starts on the alternate one because it's still running. It would be great if the gate would just initialize it each time. And it doesn't seem to be doing that. But in any case, folks, thank you for joining me. Hopefully you found this useful. Luis, hopefully this gives you some ideas. It doesn't mean I'm going to, just stop here. I'm continuing to explore. And yeah, I think trying to make something that sounds like the Rebirth would be great. But this is just one little aspect of it because that does have other oscillators in it, and it does have the drum part of it and everything. So we'll keep exploring. This series goes on. Thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Any suggestions or answers to the shebang, please leave them in the comment section, or any shout outs, hellos, and stuff like that. Helps keep me from getting lonely. Thank you, and until next time, take care and stay free.